I'll tell you what I eat. I eat the shad when they come in. I will eat the alewives or blueback herring when they come in. I'll eat the roes of all three. These fish are spending a lot of time in the sea. When they come back in, they spawn and they get out.
Well, it originally started with my grandfather. It's been here since 1917 when we started building wooden barges. And then when the steel industry came in, we built steel barges. My grandfather passed away, and my father and uncle inherited it from him. And when my father passed away, my family took it over, my brother and myself, my mother and my two sisters.
With the historic people in this area and the awareness on both sides of the river, I think there would be considerable problems with anybody trying to destroy anything like that.
Also ahead, we'll meet someone whose organization is promoting tourism on the Hudson River, and a man from the task force that's looking to improve the old lighthouses. All right here on the river.
It is, I think, without question, the greatest treasure on the east coast of the United States. It's the Noah's Ark. It has species of fish in it that have been lost from other river systems. There's no other river to match it. No other river. Despite all the jokes that have went on for years about the Hudson River and about the pollution, this river is biologically probably can rank, if not exceed, any river in the world in terms of sheer productivity. And the reason for that is that because of the happy accident of where New York City is located. If we were up here in the Highlands and all that sewage had gone in here, or up where Poughkeepsie is or Kingston is, this river would have turned belly up years ago.
Robert Boyle, author, conservationist, and president of the Hudson River Fishermen's Association. He lives on this hilltop overlooking the river he loves, and the river he's written about in 13 books, and time and again about in Sports Illustrated.
I look forward to great things for the Hudson. I think you're seeing this happening in New York already. There, on the 18 miles of New Jersey waterfront, most of which was ramshackle, given over to Rust Belt Industries, is now being converted to houses and offices. The first project to go in, one called the Port Liberté project, has been done with great ecological sensitivity and care. In fact, what they've done is to increase the amount of striped bass habitat with the design of canals in the system, and they are so far ahead that the project chairman, if that's his title, a man named Paul Bucha, who went to the academy over here and who won the Congressional Medal of Honor in Vietnam. Paul Bucha is actually arguing with the state of New Jersey, please let me build a nesting habitat for the endangered least tern. And the Department of Environmental Protection in New Jersey is saying, no, you can't do that. So here you have a case of a developer who was light years ahead of the environmental authorities. I'm very optimistic.
While Boyle speaks of the beauty of the Hudson, he speaks too of the beast.
The greatest danger is the growth, explosive growth in the mid-Hudson area, where the volume of sewage may become such that it will have to be piped out as much as other communities will pipe water in for several hundred miles. The river cannot take a sewage loading in the mid-Hudson section.
How do you prevent that? How do you stop it?
Well, you'd have to treat it very carefully, and you'd probably have to pipe it out. You know, what is pollution? Pollution, in a sense, is really nothing but resources out of place. And we have to find uses for these things, and I think that we can. I mean, I can think of a number of uses that could be put for sewage. But we can't go repeat the mistakes of the past. We can't go New York Cityfy the mid-Hudson Valley.
A lot of toxic waste in here, cadmium,
well,
nickel.
Yes.
How do you get that out?
Very carefully is the answer. I've been working on, or was aware of the cadmium since 1970 when I worked on it with a friend named Dave Seymour, who now lives out in New Mexico. And in that same year, in 1970, I also pointed out the PCB contamination of striped bass in the Hudson River to the state. A long article that I wrote in Sports Illustrated detailed what was in the striped bass in the Hudson River, particularly the PCBs. I had a scientific license to seine from the state, and in the event that state officials missed seeing a magazine with a circulation of 2.5 million copies a week, I wrote to them and I repeated my findings, and I said that they were very alarming. State official ridiculed what I had to say, and it wasn't until 5 years later that the state finally owned up to the PCB contamination, not only in the Hudson River, which they knew about, but in Lake Ontario, where they were raving about a new salmon fishery that they had established. We went to the Met with General Electric about this, we being the Hudson River Fishermen's Association, and GE was found guilty of violating the state water quality laws. But the state was equally culpable because they had given General Electric permits to do this in 2 instances. So instead of paying $200 million to clean up the mess, or $300 million, or whatever the correct price bill should have been, GE only paid $3 million in cash and $1 million in research, and then I think the state of New York put up $3 million. But what gets me is that the same people in the state who covered up on this have either retired peacefully to private life or they've been promoted within the department. There has never been a court of inquiry or any inquiry of any kind to find out who knew, how much, or when. Everything has been laid off to the sucker taxpayer. And these are the very people who make regulations affecting the Hudson River. It's a disgraceful department, the DEC, disgraceful.
How many years back are you talking?
I'm talking that the state knew as early as certainly 1971, maybe 1970, and no one said a thing until 1975, and that was because a new commissioner, Ogden Reed, came in and said, "What the hell is this?" and went public with the PCB contamination. No, ever since then, but nothing has ever been done by the state to find out who screwed up, or who lied, or who covered up. And I object to that because I'm paying taxes to support these stiffs in office.
As president of the Fishermen's Association, Boyle knows of the paradox that brings. Because of the pollution, one doesn't always eat what one catches.
It's discouraging, but I'm not going to let it demoralize me. Every major river system in the country has problems. We're a lot better off than a lot of other river systems.
As a spawning place, the Hudson River, Boyle says, is unparalleled. And while much of the fish is dangerous to eat, Boyle says it isn't all that bad.
I eat the shad when they come in. I will eat the alewives or blueback herring when they come in. I'll eat the roes of all three. These fish are spending a lot of time in the sea. When they come back in, they spawn and they get out. I do not eat the striped bass. I'll catch the striped bass, put them back, but I do not eat them. In fact, I think now it's the state regulation is just about going through saying that no one should possess a striped bass, which is basically an ill-considered measure by the state. If I were to get a big sturgeon, I'd eat a big sturgeon, and I'd make caviar from the sturgeon roe.
Robert Boyle, a man with a mission, just to go fishing where all the catches are clean, just like it used to be. When you see a barge on the Hudson, you can bet that most likely, sometime in some way, it will find itself tugged into or out of the Feeney boatyard in Kingston. The Feeney family, since 1919, has built, repaired, or rebuilt thousands of barges. It's the only place of its kind between New York City and Albany, and it keeps the family and the workforce busy year-round.
We take barges that have been virtually totally destroyed and we refurbish them and give them a new 30-year life.
How do you do that?
By renewing 80% of the structurals inside and beefing them up to approximately 3 times their original strength.
These barges, what makes them so run down, so battered, that they have to come here for repair?
Well, it's a tough service, number one, that they're in because they're constantly dropping 8-ton buckets on the decks to unload them. But the damage to the hulls themselves are caused by a general lack of maintenance on them over the 20-year lifespan that they already have had.
Can you explain how that works? Supposing you're at a pier or a dock, say in New York City, what does that do to one of these barges?
Well, most of the docks in New York City are not dredged adequately enough to support a fully loaded barge with 1,000 ton of stone on it. These barges over 20 years have had major damages done, some of which have not been repaired. And what happens is normal of wear and tear, damage from slamming them around in the tows themselves. But by far the biggest damage is done to these boats when they set them on docks that don't have adequate water to support them fully. They get at an angle, and because of previous structural damages inside that haven't been repaired, the sides collapse on them.
So it's kind of like an accordion effect there.
That's right.
It sort of pushes down, and reshapes.
We call it a fat side, yes.
It gets a fat side, and you take it up here and you give it a skinny side.
Yes, that's right, a new side.
Plus, you do something inside that is innovative.
We generally renew between 40 and 80% of all the internal structures on the boat while we're doing this.
So when a boat comes in here battered and you send it out refurbished, it's not going to come back battered the way it was?
Generally not. If they bang them up again, it's something that usually can be fixed within a few days, because they probably have 3 times as much strength when they go out of here as they had when they were a new boat, when they're rebuilt to our specifications.
What is the attraction here for you? What do you like about being here on the Rondout, being around all these barges?
Well, my brother and I are 3rd generation in this business. My grandfather started around 1919, and my father took over from him, and then we're taking over from my father, who passed away in 1980. I love the business. It's been my whole life, all my life.
It's in your blood.
Oh yeah, for sure.
As Tom Feeney explains it, barges come in with their bottoms out of shape from heavy loads and narrow docks. His workers take off the old deformed steel, reinforce it with their own methods, reshape it, and ship it out better than new. And it saves money for the barge owner.
Each one of these boats will run between $200,000 and $230,000 to repair, and the cost of a new boat is just about $200,000 more than that.
When we say Feeney family, that includes Brother Brian.
Originally started with my grandfather. It's been here since 1917 when we started building wooden barges. And then when the steel industry came in, we built steel barges. My grandfather passed away, and my father and uncle inherited it from him. And when my father passed away, my family took it over, my brother, myself, my mother, and my 2 sisters. And that's it.
What is your appeal here? What do you like about this place?
Well, I'm my own boss, and it's a challenge. I was at a bank for 10 years until this opportunity presented itself, and I like it. It's my line of work. I'm an accountant by trade, and that's what I do, and it's the family, and it's just, I'm proud to be here because it started with my grandfather and my father.
What kind of volume are we talking about here as far as dollars and actual barges that are newer or need refurbishing?
We're talking about maybe $2 million a year in repair work.
Are you the only guys doing this on the Hudson?
Well, we're the only ones from New York to Albany. We're the only ones that have a dry dock between New York and Albany.
How did that happen?
Well, my father is the one that originated the dry dock. He had a plan, and he conceived it and put it together, and that's really where the company started making most of its business, is with the dry dock.
What kind of cargo do these barges have?
Sand, stone, gravel. They're all gravel barges. That's all they carry.
And they go from where to where?
They go from here to New York, and then points after they get to New York. I don't know where they go.
And what's the future here at this company as far as business?
Hopefully indefinite. Hopefully.
Feeney Dock area is much longer than it used to be. Business has been very good lately, and that means expansion. The family bought a restaurant that went out of business, and that opened up space to store the steel needed to repair or build the barges. And if the business expands any more, there's always another member of the family ready to step in when it's time.
I'm a management major. I took 2 years at Manhattanville College in Westchester and 2 years at Marist in Poughkeepsie. And I wanted to learn how to work with the men here, because I figure that's going to be my most important asset when my time comes around.
A long line of succession indeed. As of now, Brian Feeney tells us the company's doing about $2 million a year in repair work. But a new contract is in the near future for building new barges. And Brian says that means this yard could be here, hopefully indefinitely. Just like the Feeney family. In the quiet village of Cold Spring is the office of the Hudson River Valley Associates. It includes a gift shop and a bookstore where most of what is written about the river can be found. Along the wall is a mariner's map of the Hudson, and it's from this base that Barbara Bielenberg heads the association.
The Hudson River Valley Association is dedicated to encouraging people to come and enjoy and appreciate the historic sites, the parks, and the scenic attractions in the Hudson River Valley. We feel that if they come and enjoy and see what we have here, they will join us in an effort to preserve this area for future generations. We are the custodians of a remarkably beautiful and important scenic resource in the Hudson River and its valley. And we feel that only if people can be brought to the river itself to enjoy it will they truly work to keep it this way.
As an observer of the river and its ways, Ms. Bielenberg says her association works with 8 counties that border the Hudson and the State Department of Commerce in a joint tourism effort that includes speaking to civic groups and the like. And part of the tourism includes recreation, and that includes fishing and swimming.
You can swim almost the entire length of the Hudson. There's still some problems up in the Albany area, but many of the communities along the Hudson River now have beaches and places where people do go swimming, and the water is clean to look at and pleasant to be in, and it's really wonderful to see. Sports fishing is a big activity. As a matter of fact, up in Greene County, as you know, they've been hosting bass tournaments up there, and they catch a lot of fish, but they do put them back because they can't be eaten. Certain fish, which do not feed on the bottom, like the sturgeon, are still able, what's the great one that everybody likes so well? Shad. The shad and the shad roe. Not being a fish eater, I'm not so good on this one, but anyhow, some of the fish, like the shad, can still be enjoyed, but most of the fish have to be thrown back.
And as we spoke, a pair of windsurfers were enjoying a sudden burst of wind that is not uncommon in this part of the river, and it seems this sport is practically a year-round activity on the Hudson.
As long as it's not frozen, we're out there. Sometimes when it's frozen, we're out there.
John's out year-round.
How about pneumonia, colds, that kind of thing?
Hypothermia every once in a while. I had hypothermia one time, but usually we have protective outfits that we wear. Usually don't get cold.
Dry suits. You can stay dry inside.
What is the fascination about doing this on the Hudson River? Some people do it in lakes, some people do it out on the sea.
Well, it's a great sport. I think it's really catching on in the United States. The way I can describe it is it comes closest to like flying. You know, you're out there, you're leaning back, and you feel all the wave puffs, and the speed is just incredible. We get some great winds out here. We go out sometimes on short boards, and we go out and jump the chops, which get up about 6 feet up in the air.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And so it was off to the water again, where the free wind blows and where the surfers' sails seem always full, right here on the river. Physically and visually, the Hudson Valley's cultural and natural resources relate directly to the river. Prompted by concern for the protection of its unique scenic qualities, the New York State Legislature made several recommendations for improvements that could be made to enhance and preserve the river. One of those recommendations was to create the Hudson Heritage Task Force.
And since that time, the task force has been working on several different projects, one of which is the Scenic Roads Program, which has started out, at least initially, focusing on the river corridor itself. It may in the future go back further into the rest of the valley. But it was an attempt by the Department of Environmental Conservation to bring some recognition to the scenic qualities of the roads along the river.
How does this lighthouse or any of the others tie in with what you're up to?
Well, the lighthouses there's 7 lighthouses remaining on the river. We're interested in 4 that are in the 8-county region that the task force is involved with. And they represent one of the unique historical and scenic interests along the river. There's something to a lighthouse. The quality of a lighthouse is it's unique. As you probably experienced, I think, coming up here.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been involved in helping to preserve 4 of them. The Rondout 2, which is where we are, and the Hudson Athens Lighthouse, which is upriver that way, are the 2 that are are furthest along. And we've helped to give support to the groups that have leased those 2 lighthouses from the U.S. Coast Guard Service.
Since all of the lighthouses were designed as live-in quarters for the keepers, Doyle feels confident the conversion of the Rondout 2 into a bed and breakfast will be a success. Yet there's much to be done before the first guests check in. Just ask Jay Hogan, whose job it is to investigate and evaluate the structural soundness of the base of the lighthouse. Jay, who works for the city of Kingston as the superintendent of public works, is excited about the changes.
There's almost 4 miles of coastline on the Roundout Creek and the Hudson River. And Kingston's one of the 14 urban cultural parks in the state. So we're working on the various sites, West Strand Plaza, the Lighthouse, Kingston Point. Several contracts right now. The initial phase is putting those together. We're hoping when our bricks and mortar money comes from coastal zone management and urban cultural parks that we can start connecting the pieces up. Meanwhile, we do the maintenance and we try and expand a few feet every year.
Hogan, who also has to worry about potholes in the streets and sending out snow plows, finds time to help in the furnishing of the old lighthouse. A stove from a public works garage, a sink that came from a city landfill, and various beds and accessories from other like sources. When the job is done, it will be close to the way it was when the lighthouse was flourishing with the keeper and his family.
We've been doing it since 1984, and hopefully we'll have it finished next year. And we go to phase 2 of the lighthouse, which is the connection to land. Hopefully the Corps of Engineers will be on schedule for rebuilding the jetty, and we can put the bridge deck on top and people will be able to walk out here every day.
In the more than 70 years since the lighthouse was built, a lot of river history has floated or sailed by. And it makes a preservationist cringe when Hogan tells of how, because it was no longer needed, Roundout 1 was just blown away.
That was Roundout 1. That was replaced by Roundout 2 when the Corps of Engineers built the new dikes to channelize the flow a little bit better between the river and the creek. And it remained there until about 1954 when the Corps of Engineers dynamited it off the foundation. And now all that remains is the base.
You mean there was a building there and all of a sudden there wasn't?
All of a sudden there wasn't one day.
If they tried that today, there'd be a lot of problems raised.
With the historic people in this area and the awareness on both sides of the river, I think there would be considerable problems with anybody trying to destroy anything like that.
Yeah, I look up and I see USLHS 1913. What's that all about?
That's the United States Lighthouse Service. That was the original organization that manned and maintained all of the lighthouses in the United States. And the 1913 designates when this one was opened.
Was that a federal organization?
Yes, it was. It became part of the Coast Guard later on. And the Coast Guard still has maintenance of all of the existing lighthouses.
Including this one?
Including this one. It is an active light up in the tower, and they do maintain it. The lamplighter, who's a civilian employee of the Coast Guard, Warren Spinneylever, who lives right down here in Port Yonan, he can visually watch the light, and he comes to Kingston and turns on the foghorn from land when the weather report calls for it.
So nobody has to come out here at all to operate this house?
Nobody has to come out here. He, about once a month, comes out and maintains the light, checks the bulbs.
Now, you got a bell behind you. What's the story with that? What's going to happen with it?
The Coast Guard donated that to us. It's around 1913 it was cast, which is about the same time this building was built. We don't have the history of it. But that bell will be moved up on the deck on the original lighthouse pad. The bell was removed when the foghorn was installed. So we're hoping to put the bell back, and we can ring that as well as the foghorn.
And getting back to John Doyle, we find there's still a lot more work ahead, not only here, but at other lighthouses in the area.
We are involved right now with the Saugerties Lighthouse restoration effort in helping the Saugerties Lighthouse Conservancy restore that lighthouse. That's the oldest lighthouse on the river, and it's probably in the worst shape. But the task force helped get a grant from the Hudson River Foundation to do some emergency repairs to that lighthouse. And we hope to get that work underway this year to stabilize it, because there's danger that, given its structural condition right now, it may not last another winter.
Mm-hmm.
And then just downriver, maybe you can almost see it today, the Esopus Meadows Lighthouse and the haze down there.
What's going on with that one? That's just sitting there, tilting.
Jay Hogan, of the Superintendent of Public Works of the City of Kingston, is a task force member, and he is getting ready to investigate and do some work on evaluating the structural soundness the base of that lighthouse. The building itself is in fairly decent condition in relative terms, but it's the base that's a question, and we're trying to evaluate that to bring that lighthouse back, just as the roundhouse is back.
This is going to become a bed and breakfast. Anything like that going to happen with any of the others?
I don't know that plans have been finalized for the Saugerties Lighthouse yet. Certainly we're too far away to have a notion on the Esopus Meadows. But it might work at the Saugerties because, again, all of them were designed as live-in quarters for lighthouse keepers. Mm-hmm. So they certainly lend themselves in that direction.
No way that'll ever come back, is it?
No.
No. Too many machines and buttons and computers.
It's too easy to just flip a switch and turn on a light.
And there you have it for this week. Slowly but surely, a little bit at a time. Sometimes things just don't move too fast along the Hudson. Thanks for coming aboard. We'll be back again next week, right here on the river.